Hello there. I'm starting a podcast called Person of Interest. My name is Connor and I interview interesting people with interesting stories. My first interview is with my friend Patrick, who drove the Nutmobile for planners. If you don't know what that is, I showed an image here of what that looks like. It's basically a giant peanut that someone drives around the country to promote the brand, and Patrick did that for a number of months before we were roommates in Austin. So I talked to him about that. I hope you enjoy. I hope you find it interesting. I asked my parents, they ghosted me. I asked my brother, he skipped town. And then I realized, Patrick, you've had some interesting roles. You've served coffee. You gave juice out at a Whole Foods, and then you were also a driver of the peanut mobile at Planters. How did you hear about the job, and how did you apply? What was the application process like?
A Wienermobile driver came and spoke at a student organization I was a part of at the University of Texas when I was a sophomore. I thought that was so crazy and weird. I was like eating dinner at Kirby Lane with a friend, and the Wienermobile driver was there at the table right next to me. And like he invited my friend and I to like join them and like ask them questions about the Wienermobile. It came to my senior year and I was like getting ready to try to apply. A friend of a friend who was driving the Wienermobile that year, he was like, "Yeah, just show up to the info session, bring a resume and cover letter." I distinctly remember like Thanksgiving that year, mom's side was all like quizzing me, and they're like, "All right, so Patrick, like, what are you gonna do after you graduate? Do you have any idea yet?" I was like, "I'm gonna drive the Wienermobile." I remember they were all laughing at me, and they're like, "All right, what are you actually going to do? Like, that's not real. Like, there's no way you could do something like that." I got offered an in-person interview on campus. I also learned that there was a thing called the Nutmobile. I had no idea that even existed. I had to like dance to like a like EDM song. They dimmed the lights and brought someone dressed up as Mr. Peanut, and they were like, "All right, sing Happy Birthday to Mr. Peanut." So they recorded me singing Happy Birthday to Mr. Peanut. They made me do a bunch of like silly performative tasks, and got the phone call maybe like 3 weeks later that I was being offered a spot to drive the Nutmobile. Most of what they wanted to know is like, how good of a people person are you? How good are you at multitasking? And how good are you at like representing a brand and sort of like engaging with different demographics? Because the whole job was 100% just talking to people. Like that could be anything from just the people I would talk to at fairs and festivals and trying to like provide a positive experience at those events, as well as it's like booking hotels, like planning events, like and they also wanted to see like if you were good at social media, how good you were at like marketing. Another part of the interview where they basically they didn't lock me, but they put me in like a tiny room with just a computer, and they gave me like an hour, and I had to like create like 20 tweets, like 10 Instagram captions, uh, 5 Facebook captions, as well as like writing a blog post, all trying to like showcase my ability of how well I can kind of promote the brand on social media and likewise.
Let me just put Safe Search on. This is what the Wienermobile looks like. Do you have to do any special training to handle a vehicle this big?
I did have to go through like 3 days worth of training, which was actually led by the city of Madison, Wisconsin's police department. It was the first time I had to be pretty cognizant of like the height of the vehicle. And I thankfully never ran into this issue, but there were definitely some teams, um, at least my year, that, and this didn't happen as much on freeways, but sometimes it'd be like driving down the road and they'd reach an overpass that was like too low, but it would be like a one-way street. So they'd have to like awkwardly like back out and like halt traffic. And sometimes you'd even have to like call the police to like help with traffic flow just because like you couldn't move forward anymore.
Remember, I asked you this before, but if you don't mind, and if you can remember, from your starting destination to your ending destination, what is every city in the U.S. that you hit?
I think I know the whole route still by heart.
Lay it on us.
Started in Madison, Wisconsin, to Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Rapid City, South Dakota, Cheyenne, Wyoming, Fort Collins, Colorado, Denver, Colorado, Salt Lake City, Utah, Boise, Idaho, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Spokane, Washington, back to Boise, Bend, Oregon, Sacramento, California, Las Vegas, Nevada, Los Angeles, California, Santa Barbara, California, San Diego, California, Phoenix, Arizona, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Dallas, Texas, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Memphis, Tennessee, Winston-Salem, Louisville, Kentucky, Cincinnati, then Cleveland, Boston, Massachusetts, fly from Boston to Madison, Champaign, Illinois, Indianapolis, back to Champaign, back to Madison, flew back to Boston. There are a couple times during the year where I'd have to fly to Madison for like meetings, but we won't count those. Buffalo, New York, Syracuse, New York, Roanoke, Virginia, Savannah, Georgia, Jacksonville, Florida, Hilton Head, South Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. Philadelphia was there at some point. Cincinnati, Chicago, back to Madison. It was a lot of places.
What was the longest route you took, and how long did that take?
The longest drive I ever had to do was Cleveland to Boston, Massachusetts. That was a long drive. We're driving through like a blizzard at one point. Nutmobile couldn't handle the conditions, and we had to like spend the night in this random small town in like the middle of nowhere, New York.
Is it really just like a customized like van?
It's built on a truck chassis, which is usually what is underneath like fire trucks and ambulances. The engine was like a Ford V8 engine. We didn't get that much mileage per gallon. Like it's pretty small. Filling up a tank is usually pretty expensive, especially in a state like California. It would cost like $100 to like fill up our tank.
Did it run on peanut oil? All right.
Yeah.
Uh,
People ask that. No.
when you're going to each place, do you just go and because it's a peanut shaped car, people come to it? Or do you have events that you're actually going to?
We had events that we'd go to. Like there were some times where we'd like go out to a community and like surprise people. We'd bring like the Nutmobile to a retirement home or bring it to like a park and people would approach us. But most of the time it was like scheduled events like going to a state fair or festival or grocery store or corporate event, and people would always come just like really curious. They'd want to take pictures of the vehicle, check out the inside, meet Mr. Peanut, all of that.
Did you ever play Mr. Peanut?
Oh yeah, I got to be Mr. Peanut in the Gay Pride Parade in Chicago. I remember that'll be like one of the moments that I think flashes before my eyes on my deathbed. Literally a million people at this parade. Normally, when you wear the costume, you only are supposed to wear it for like 40 minutes at a time just because it gets so hot and you need to take a break and stuff. But based on how the parade worked, I had to wear it for 3 hours straight. They had to feed like a water tube through the suit. I remember through like the last hour and a half, I had to pee so badly. Um, but I remember there was just like techno music playing the entire time, and just people, all these like women were like flashing me, guys were like throwing dildos at me. People don't see you as a human being anymore. They see you as Mr. Peanuts.
What's like the craziest tale from a city you went to? Oh, there's a lot.
There's a lot. I mean, just one that comes to mind. I remember we were driving to Portland. I think a lot of people don't realize this about the West. There is still like miles of emptiness of like no human beings living anywhere. So there was a stretch driving from Boise, Idaho to Portland where it was like 160 miles or something with no gas station. We ran out of gas right when we were like hitting the exit ramp to like get to the gas station. I like had to put the Nutmobile in neutral, like basically rolled to a stop right in front of the gas station. And the people I was traveling with like had to run in and get a canister.
What do you learn from driving for a year?
Definitely the most difficult coworker situation I'll ever have. Not necessarily because my coworkers were like difficult people. And for me, I was traveling with two women for the first 6 months and a different two women for the second 6 months. So like definitely navigating the gender dynamic of being like basically like the only male in a group of three. It's just really intense because it really blurs the line between like coworker and friend. It's really intense. Like you're kind of see your coworkers at like their most raw states because you definitely go through a lot of highs and lows in the job. And I think it's like basically I feel comfortable that I can handle any difficult coworker situation because like I face the most difficult ones I'll probably ever face in an automobile job. But the biggest lesson for me is just learning how to talk to so many different types of people. When you actually go and like meet the people that are like talked about in certain ways by the media, everyone in America is just like trying to get by and trying to like make the best out of the circumstances that they have. And it just taught me a lot more about empathy and just like Americans hating each other, I think is pretty overblown by the media. And I think for the most part, like most Americans are just trying to like make do with what they have. And I viewed it as just like an in-depth study into just like what American life looks like in different parts of the country and how, yeah, there were a lot of differences, but a lot of times I felt like a lot of places were pretty similar. We're not as different as maybe the media tends to say we are, I guess.
All right, Patrick. Thank you for sharing that with me. I've never really gone in depth on your Nutmobile adventures. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry for the background noise with the P. Terry's.